Hello and welcome to the topic of communication in business, part of our People unit for OCR Business. And today I'm going to talk about types of communication in business. Obviously there's verbal communication where you might speak to someone on the phone, face to face, have a meeting or do a presentation. And the benefit of that is straight away you know whether or not they've understood. You can say, do you understand? They can ask you questions. You can also use body language to improve effectiveness. So if you're having to give somebody some difficult news, you could actually smile while you're doing it, or you can judge how to speak to them rather than just sending them an email or whatever. And obviously in a presentation you can have graphs, diagrams and things like that to make sure that the message is clearly understood. However, if you go and talk to somebody or you speak on the phone, there is no permanent record of the conversation. So the person might say you didn't say that. They might also interrupt and not actually listen to what you're saying, and then you don't know if the message has been received. And it also, if you've got to go to a meeting in a foreign country, that can be very expensive. On the other side, you've got non-verbal communication, which then is things like letters, emails and texts, social media and websites. And the benefit of this is it's written down. The person can go back and check, see what's been written, see what time the meeting is or whatever. It's quick to send out to lots of people, isn't it? Rather than you having to have a conversation with 10 people, you can actually send an email to them all. And if it's a difficult subject and you don't want them to argue with you, then it's easier to put in an email or a letter, isn't it? The downside is people could misunderstand. Often you know this from sending text to friends or putting something on social media, and people misunderstand what you mean. Emails can go missing. You don't always know that they've been received. And if an employee is getting lots of emails, it can be overwhelming and it can get lost in all the information. Now, something obviously that's quite a modern situation is that we can use social media for business communication. And the benefits are there's lots of people use social media and we can target a wide audience and they can give feedback to us as business owners. And we can update the information regularly. You can put stuff on every minute of every day if necessary, and a lot of companies do. It's cheaper to advertise on social media than on the TV and newspapers than the traditional methods of advertising. And people will share posts. So if you put something really cool on and it goes viral, you've reached loads more people, but you haven't actually paid for that. It's been shared by everyone for free. And you can also use social media for staff communication. So that's pretty cool. However, somebody's got to be involved in updating the social media and constantly putting photos on or comments on or whatever. And if you get negative feedback on there from unhappy customers, that can be very damaging for your brand. Now, things that might stop communication happening properly in an organisation, they're called barriers to communication. Now, if we don't use the right language, we don't know if the person listening has understood it. If there's noise, if we've got a bad connection on the phone, if there's got too many people talking in a meeting, the message is going to get spoilt and interrupted. Too much information can cause problems. If you're trying to make a decision and you just get loads of people keep telling you stuff all the time, then that can be a real problem. If there's emotion involved, so say somebody's angry in a situation, that can mean that they're not really listening to what the communication is, and then they're not really taking on board what you're trying to tell them. I think we talked about this in organisational structure. If you've got lots of people in the hierarchy who've got to pass the message on, then by the time the message gets to the people it's intended for, it might not actually be accurate. And then we've got inconsistency. If you get one message from one manager and then another manager says something different, you end up saying, well, what on earth am I supposed to be doing here? And people just then get to the point where they go, you know what, I'm just going to take no notice. So it could be that if you're not sending out a clear message, then people don't really take any notice of you. It's really important in a business to have effective communication, because if you're not telling employees what's going on, then you can have mistakes, you can have quality issues, the employees feel demotivated. And this is within a business, obviously. I mean, if you were talking about communication to customers, then that's even more, as important, because obviously customers need to understand what your message is, what your brand is. You need to communicate your instructions to them on how to use the product. You need to be honest in your advertising to tell them exactly how the product is. We'll look at that when we talk about consumer law. And if in a business, if you send out too much information, then employees can't get their jobs done because they've just got hundreds of emails to deal with. And if you've always got employees in meetings, they're not actually doing any work, are they? Well, they are doing some work, but they're not really able to get on with the tasks they need to get on with. So too many meetings can cause all sorts of problems as well. And that is me communicating about communication in business. Use the end of unit notes as well. It will help you because there's loads of information in there. Goodbye.